Imagine a world where something you utterly rely on, something just deeply part of your daily life, maybe even how you think about society, it just vanishes. Not like in some big disaster, but just quietly gone. What happens then? How do we adapt when something indispensable isn't there anymore? Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey into Uri Kartoun's collection, A Future Without, 50 short stories of what may not be. It's a compelling look set in 2029, exploring these unexpected gaps in our lives and, maybe more importantly, the really remarkable ways humanity finds to reinvent itself. Now, Uri Kartoun, he isn't just a storyteller, he's an inventor, a seasoned professional, deep background in big data, machine learning, places like Microsoft, Harvard, IBM, dozens of publications, over 75 patents. So a serious background. What really struck me, though, about this book is how it was made. Uri actually used cutting-edge AI like ChatGPT and DALL-E, not just to sort of refine the ideas, but to actually create visuals for these futures without.
Right. So it's not just pulling ideas out of thin air. It's this blend of deep research, technological insight, and then this creative exploration using AI tools.
Exactly. It feels grounded,
Okay.
even when the concepts are wild. So our mission today is to pull out some of the most, thought-provoking transformations from this collection. We want to give you those surprising facts, those aha moments, make you quickly well-informed about human resilience. It's quite incredible. All right, let's dive right in. Let's start with something, unthinkable for many. A future without French fries.
French fries. Okay.
Right. Kartoun paints this picture of 2029 where they've just vanished globally. And not because of a potato shortage or like a health regulation. No, it was described as if the very essence of French fries had been plucked from the world's culinary consciousness.
Wow. So nobody remembers how to make them.
Nobody. Chefs can't recall the technique. Cookbooks are blank. Digital archives wiped clean on that specific topic.
That's bizarre. Just French fries.
Just French fries. And it's not just a snack disappearing, right? A cultural cornerstone. So what kind of impact did that have? Something so loved just poof.
Well, the book describes the initial reaction, obviously. Uproar, disbelief, fast food chains, fancy restaurants, everyone's scrambling.
I bet.
But the deeper point, I think, is how much French fries represented. They were a cultural phenomenon, like you said, a universal comfort food, crossing borders, diets. Think about it. Shared baskets on dates, late-night study fuel, simple family meals.
Yeah, absolutely. Loads of memories tied up in them.
So that void wasn't just, culinary. It was felt in homes, restaurants, and hearts worldwide. An emotional gap, almost.
It's a striking image, isn't it? Something so seemingly small, but its absence creates this really profound feeling of loss.
It is, but what Kartoun highlights, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think, is how quickly that void got filled. Not with a substitute fry, but with something completely new and arguably better in some ways.
Okay, so the loss wasn't the end of the story.
Not at all. It apparently sparked this global movement of culinary innovation.
Really? How so?
Chefs, home cooks, everyone started experimenting. New vegetables, new techniques, zucchini, avocado, even exotic root vegetables were suddenly on the menu in new ways.
So necessity really became the mother of invention in the kitchen.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about finding a replacement, it genuinely broadened culinary horizons. People discovered new tastes, new textures.
That makes sense. But you said better in some ways. What else happened?
Well, the ripple effect went way beyond taste buds. Think about agriculture. The book mentions a dramatic reduction in mass potato cultivation for fries.
Okay, so less monoculture.
Right, which allowed ecosystems to recover and biodiversity to flourish. And the fast food industry itself started changing. Less processed stuff, more focus on local, sustainable ingredients.
So losing fries actually triggered a health and environmental shift.
It seems so. It catalyzed a reevaluation of eating habits globally. Public interest in nutrition apparently surged. It really makes you question what's truly essential, doesn't it? How removing one seemingly small thing can trigger these huge positive shifts in completely unexpected areas, like public health, environmental stewardship.
It's fascinating. Absence creating space for something better. Okay.
Yeah.
But what if the absence isn't a snack, but something much more fundamental to how we interact? That brings us to the next scenario. A future without the ability to tell the truth.
Oh, okay. That's a big one.
Yeah. Kartoun describes 2029 being enveloped in a peculiar malaise. People have just lost the ability to tell the truth. Again, not a government thing, not a disease. It was as if humanity had woken one day to find that the concept of truth-telling had evaporated from their collective consciousness.
You literally couldn't tell the truth, even if you wanted to.
That seems to be the premise. Imagine that. What happens to society? I mean, it sounds like instant chaos.
It certainly leans that way in the description. Kartoun paints a vivid picture of the breakdown. News outlets. Zero credibility. Reporters just spinning tales.
Okay.
Politicians giving speeches entirely untethered from reality. The whole judicial system just grinds to a halt. Trials become these farcical displays of contradictory statements.
Wow. And what about, like, science? Academia?
Struggling. Publishing papers that were, at best speculative and at worst knowingly false. Because how could you verify anything based on what people said?
And personal lives.
Relationships.
Devastating, apparently. Trust, the cornerstone of human connection, eroded. Intimacies just unraveled under the weight of constant deceit. It's a stark picture of how much we rely on shared truth.
It really is. So if words basically become meaningless for conveying truth, how do you function? Where do you find authenticity?
Well, this is where the human adaptability factor comes in again, and it's quite ingenious. People developed these elaborate systems of verification. They started relying purely on actions rather than words as the currency of truth.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder than words, taken to the absolute extreme.
Pretty much. Contracts started including provable action-based clauses. You couldn't just promise. You had to set up a verifiable action.
Okay, that makes a certain kind of sense. What else?
The arts apparently exploded. Music, painting, dance, sculpture. They became the primary way to communicate emotions and ideas authentically because they bypassed the spoken lie.
So you couldn't say it, but you could show it or express it artistically. That's a fundamental shift.
A massive shift, and entirely new professions emerged. These people called verifiers.
Verifiers, what did they do?
They were experts, skilled in reading the subtleties of human behavior, body language, micro-expressions. Their job was to discern intention and authenticity through actions rather than words. They became indispensable.
Like human lie detectors, but focused on action and intent, not just words.
Exactly. And education changed, too. Curricula were revamped to emphasize critical thinking, interpretation of nonverbal cues, basically learning to read the world through action and observation.
Yeah, mind-bending. But it shows this deep, inherent need for truth, right? Even if we have to invent entirely new ways to find it.
Precisely. The drive for genuine connection and understanding forces innovation, even when something as basic as truth-telling disappears.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Speaking of fundamental abilities, another scenario that honestly might feel uncomfortably familiar to many of us listening, a future without concentration.
Ah, yes. This one definitely resonates.
Right. By 2029, the ability to concentrate had apparently dwindled to nearly nothing. And again, not some sudden catastrophe, but the culmination of years of digital overload, constant interruptions, and the insatiable need for instant gratification.
The constant notifications, the endless scrolling social media feeds, the barrage of emails. Yeah, I can see how that, Bill.
The book says it just began to erode the ability to focus. People couldn't engage in deep work, couldn't even hold conversations without feeling distracted.
That does hit close to home, that feeling of your brain constantly wanting to jump to the next thing.
Totally. So what were the consequences in this future, this widespread lack of focus?
Pretty dire, according to the story. In workplaces, the whole idea of deep work became a relic of the past. Productivity plummeted. Innovation stalled.
And those open-plan offices probably didn't help.
Apparently, they often only exacerbated the problem. More distractions. Education systems also suffered badly. Teachers just couldn't hold students' attention for more than a few minutes. Traditional lectures, homework, it all started to falter.
And personally, relationships.
They suffered too. Individuals found it hard to be fully present with loved ones. That idea of quality time became this sort of nostalgic ideal, just hard to achieve.
Oof. That's a pretty bleak picture of a society just fragmented by distraction.
It is. But again, humanity didn't just roll over.
Okay, so how did people respond?
Yeah.
Did we fight back against the distraction?
Yes. Kartoun describes the emergence of something called the concentration revolution, a counter-movement led by thinkers, educators, even technologists who saw it as a genuine societal crisis.
A revolution? What did that involve?
Introducing new practices specifically to nurture focus. Things like meditation and mindfulness exercises actually became part of school curricula.
Interesting. In schools?
Yeah. And workplaces started implementing focus hours, dedicated time where all digital communication was just paused. No emails, no messages.
Wow. Forced disconnection to enable connection with work.
Sort of, yeah. And what's really fascinating is how technology itself adapted.
How so? The tech caused the problem, didn't it?
Largely, yes. But then, responding to this new demand for focus, tech companies started developing tools specifically designed to minimize distractions rather than maximize engagement time. Filters, focus modes, things like that.
So the tools evolved to serve a different human need.
Exactly. And another lovely detail, there was a resurgence of books.
Physical books.
Yes. People rediscovered the joy of losing oneself in a story, of thoughts unbroken by the ping of a notification. It suggests that even if we create our own problems, like digital overload, we still have this intrinsic need for deep engagement, for sustained attention, and we'll find ways to reclaim it.
That's actually quite hopeful. Reclaiming our mental space.
Yeah.
Okay, from reclaiming mental space, let's jump to maybe the biggest reclaiming of all. Our final scenario today. A future without jobs.
Right, the big one.
By 2029, jobs, as we had known them, ceased to exist. Full stop. And this wasn't just, automation creep. It was described as a deliberate global decision to redefine the structure of society and the economy.
A conscious choice to move beyond the job-based model.
That's the idea. Machines, AI, they became so capable, often better than humans, at almost everything. Manufacturing, medicine, logistics. The tasks that formed the backbone of labor were just handled.
Okay, that sounds like terrifying for a lot of people initially, I'd imagine. So much identity is tied up in work.
Absolutely. The book acknowledges widespread fear, uncertainty. Work was more than a means to earn a living, right? It was social standing, contribution, the structure for your life. The purpose question looms huge.
So what was the answer? How did society handle potentially billions of people without employment in the traditional sense?
The radical solution proposed. Worldwide, universal basic income programs were implemented.
UBI.
Everyone got a stipend, enough to cover basic needs. Food, shelter, essentials. This, crucially, freed people from the necessity of labor for survival.
Freed them from labor. But freed them for what? That's the key question, isn't it? Did everyone just sit around?
That's exactly the tension. But Kartoun envisions not ennui, but a renaissance of creativity, community, and redefined purpose.
Oh, renaissance. How?
With survival guaranteed, people apparently flocked to pursuits that brought them joy and fulfillment. The arts absolutely flourished millions. Painting, writing, making music, dancing, not as professions, but as expressions of the human spirit. So intrinsic motivation took over.
It seems that's the idea. Education shifted too, becoming a lifelong journey of curiosity and growth, not just job training.
And what about community? Did people become more isolated or more connected?
More connected, according to this story. Communities became more tightly knit because people had more time for relationships. Volunteerism apparently surged. Helping others became a primary way to contribute, driven by genuine compassion and solidarity.
That's a very different picture of societal contribution.
It is, and environmental stewardship became a huge common cause. People dedicated time to restoring natural habitats, developing sustainable living practices, things maybe they didn't have time for when working 40-plus hours a week.
So the definition of a successful life completely changed.
Completely. Success was rewritten. It wasn't about your job title or how much money you made. It was measured in personal growth, contributions to the community, and the quality of one's relationships. It poses that fundamental question. If machines do the work, what is human purpose? And this scenario suggests it shifts towards intrinsic fulfillment, creativity, connection, stewardship. A radical reevaluation of what gives life meaning.
Wow. Okay. We've journeyed through some really mind-altering futures today. Without French fries, without truth-telling, without concentration, and without jobs. And in every single one, no matter how bizarre or initially bleak it sounds, there's this constant thread, isn't there?
Definitely. Human ingenuity or adaptability, that relentless drive to connect, to find meaning, to build something new, even when the old foundations crumble.
Yeah, these stories, they're not just about loss. They highlight surprising gains that emerge from these absences.
Exactly. Like the French fry example leading to health and environmental benefits, or the loss of verbal truth forcing a reliance on more authentic, action-based systems, or reclaiming focus or redefining purpose beyond labor. It shows this incredible capacity for resilience and innovation.
It really does. So maybe a final thought for you listening. As you go about your day-to-day, just take a moment. Think about your own life, your routine, your society. What seemingly essential part of it, if it just vanished tomorrow, What might that disappearance actually enable? Could it lead to an unexpected, maybe even a positive transformation for you or for your community? What could we gain, perhaps, by letting go of something we currently cling to, or maybe even dread losing?
It's a powerful thought to chew on. What absence could create the most valuable new space?